work. You can sit on it, but it won't play the music. To the repair shop, new at 3:45. Now on BBC One, the woman who thought she was helping the police.
All around us, in every part of the UK, are skilled teams of eagle-eyed men and women, working alongside the police to keep us safe. They're the people on the front line, tackling the hazards that place us in danger.
This is not something you want anyone at all to ever experience.
They're cracking down on those who threaten our families.
These people prey on vulnerable people. They're just the lowest of the low.
They're protecting us on the streets and in our homes.
With telephone calls now, I don't answer it. That's how scared I am.
These men and women make up the UK's enforcement teams, our defenders. Today, our defenders crack down on cruel con men targeting the elderly.
They're out there every day trying to get more and more victims, trying to get more and more money.
They get tough with an estate agent that failed to tell buyers their flat was a potential fire risk.
I was so angry that they had got away with it. That was when we realised that we should have been told.
And they're on the trail of a furniture fraudster ripping off hundreds of customers.
I hate the feeling that we were scammed, it was all a lie, and we were conned, basically.
Shirley Gailey and her daughter Tracy live in the quiet West London suburb of Hanwell.
Mum has lived in Hamwell most of her life.
It is a nice place to live, and I've got very good neighbours here. Everybody's so friendly.
Some parts of it's still like a little bit of a village. It's got a really good community, good friends. Yeah, it's not bad.
Shirley's 84 and living on her own. But every day, Tracy calls round to make sure her mum's all right.
Me and my mum are really close. We've got a really good relationship. I pop in every day to see her, check up on her, make sure she's okay.
Shirley's always been fiercely independent.
Mum had a really bubbly personality, trusting. She would try and help anybody she can. Nothing fazed her. That was, yeah, before what happened.
All that changed when Shirley was tricked into handing over thousands of pounds. She'd fallen victim to a new scam known as courier fraud.
The people behind these courier fraud scams are incredibly convincing. Just because someone knows your information doesn't mean to say they are who they say they are.
It was quite early in the morning, and I got this phone call, and he said he was a policeman at Hammersmith Police Station.
He told Shirley the police were investigating reports of cash going missing at her local bank. They needed her help to catch the person responsible.
Then he asked me if I would get some money out, and then when he said, would I take out £4,700?
He told her that the cash would be paid back into her account and tracked to help identify the thief. Shirley wanted to help the police, but was suspicious.
I said, well, if I take this money out, how can I be sure that I'm going to get it back again?
He gave her a number to call to check he really was a police officer. Shirley called the number and got the reassurance she wanted.
They said that they would definitely, that I would get my money back again.
Shirley was given instructions to withdraw £4,700, then wait for a courier to collect the cash to pay it back into the bank.
They told me not to tell my family or anything, that it was just, you know, something between him and myself. So I didn't say nothing at all to my daughter.
Believing she was helping the police, Shirley drew out the cash, went home and waited.
And then I came back home and they phoned me again and said that a courier would come down to pick the money up.
A few minutes later, the courier came and collected the cash. Shirley never saw it again.
It wasn't very long, I would say only about not even 15 minutes, that the courier arrived, and I thought to myself then that, you know, he's come so quick.
At lunchtime, Tracy came round as usual. By then, her mum was starting to worry she'd made a terrible mistake.
And she was pretty distressed. She seemed, you know, not with it. She seemed like, you know, something had happened. And, you know, obviously I could sense this, asked her what's wrong.
Eventually, Shirley told her daughter what had happened.
Because the scammers are so convincing, she was still convinced this is what's happened, you know. It was real, that the police, she was helping the police out. I kept saying, no, it's not right, it's not real, and eventually she realised it wasn't.
My daughter called the police, and the police come, and they was very good. They took all statements and everything and that.
Mum was obviously upset, distressed. They, you know, were calming. They explained that it's courier fraud. They said, you know, it's massive. It happens to so many people.
Alison Farrer works closely with the National Trading Standards Scams team.
People do feel that it's their fault. They feel to blame. They search for ways that they could have avoided this from happening in the first place. It's not their fault. It was the criminal that was to blame. They know what they're doing. They do this day in, day out.
It made myself feel really stupid, but why could I do something like that?
The people that have taken the money from my mum, they're just the lowest of the low. These people prey on vulnerable people, people they know will probably be, you know, willing to help the police. It's a horrible, horrible crime, you know, that, I don't know, I don't think they've got any conscience. They just don't feel anything. Just want to gain money wherever they can, and they don't care how they get it.
I always think to myself, you know, that you've got to trust people sometime in your life with things, but after this, no, I don't.
Tony Blake works for the Dedicated Card and Payment Crime Unit, a specialist police team tracking down fraudsters and bringing them to justice.
Courier fraud is a particularly despicable type of crime. They're clearly only interested in the money and do not care one jot about who they're taking that money from and the effect that it will have on them.
Tony is our defender.
It's really important that we go after these people because more and more people are taking fraud up as a crime. So we will continue to go after as many people as we possibly can. That's what we're about, and if we do that, we know that we're helping protect, in some way, helping protect an awful lot of people because they're out there every day trying to get more and more victims, trying to get more and more money.
In February 2019, the unit was contacted by Dorset Police. There'd been a spate of courier fraud incidents on the south coast.
They'd identified a series of courier frauds down in the Bournemouth area where elderly victims had been targeted. A lot of the fraud spend on their card had taken place in London, so they asked us as a London-based unit to have a look at that and progress the case from there.
The fraudsters, pretending to be bank employees, had struck 3 times in 3 days. Each of their victims had been tricked into handing over bank cards.
Dorset Police had started the investigation and looked into and spoken to all of the victims and taken statements from them.
The stolen cards had been used at stores and betting shops across East London.
Our job was then to, as quickly as possible, get out to all of those places and see what evidence we could gather, mainly, of course, CCTV, and see what that gave us in order to progress the case.
Several video cameras had captured the person using the stolen cards.
We looked at the CCTV, and it became apparent that the same individual was appearing on all of the locations. So the same individual was using our victims' cards, often within 24 hours of them being taken, sometimes a little bit longer, but not more than 2 days.
On each occasion, the suspect was wearing a distinctive black and red hat.
We didn't know who this individual was, so we had to do a bit of work around that, and it wasn't too long before we had a name for a person that we were after.
The fraudster was identified as George Panayiotou. Panayiotou's home address was searched, and vital evidence linking him directly to the CCTV was recovered.
The red and black deerstalker hat, which was very distinctive, the black Nike puffer jacket and some grey tracksuit bottoms, all of the clothing he'd worn in all of the offences. The deerstalker hat in particular was a real good find for us because it's an unusual garment to wear, and it was a really, really important find.
Faced with the evidence, Panayiotou admitted using the cards, but denied any part in the courier fraud.
His version of the events were that he was being pressurised by others who gave him the card and basically saying, you go spending on it and you give us any money that you make on the back of it. He was trying to distance himself from the main offences of targeting these elderly victims down in Bournemouth.
Panayiotou pleaded guilty to 3 offences of fraud by false representation.
What that means is that Panayiotou had gone into various locations pretending to be the genuine card holder and obtained money or services as a result of that.
In January 2020, he was jailed for 8 months.
We were really pleased with the outcome. You know, a term of imprisonment for that type of offence is really good.
All 3 victims had their money reimbursed.
This case had a great outcome, and part of an organised crime gang was taken out, and that's part of our remit, to take out organised criminal gangs.
Joe Sparks always dreamt of returning home to South Devon. And in 2019, that dream finally came true.
We made a decision purely based on children's schooling and where they were at with schools, that 2019 was going to be the summer to move back to where I grew up, and I grew up down here, and that was how it all started.
The plan was for Joe's husband Fraser to work from home and go into the office a couple of times a week. They decided to buy a flat close to his place of work in Reading.
We found this flat in Hanover House. It had been repurposed from the DVLA building. It was modern, it had all its appliances were included. It felt homely for him because it was small and contained.
Joe contacted Haslam's Estate Agents Limited and arranged a time when she and Fraser could view the flat.
We got a chance to look at the property. We went and viewed it together one lunchtime, went over and met Fraser, and we went and looked at it.
The flat was everything they expected. Joe and Fraser put in an offer of just over £200,000.
We made the offer, had to go a bit backwards and forwards, as you do with offers. They accepted, and to be honest, we were really pleased. It was like the first stage of our move to Devon. It was this massive thing at the time. It was perfect for what we wanted.
Contracts were exchanged, and then at midday on November the 17th, the sale was completed. But 30 minutes later, Joe got a phone call that changed everything.
Tonight at 10, we're in West London, where 12 people have died and many are still missing.
The flat they'd bought had the same type of cladding as Grenfell Tower.
The block had recently been refurbished, and ministers have ordered emergency checks on towers where similar work has been carried out.
The phone call breaking the news that they'd just bought a flat with the same cladding came as a complete shock.
It was literally half an hour after completion, and at that point, our hearts sank. Listening to it on the radio, to seeing the pictures of it was just horrendous. Just those pictures of that tower up in flames.
The cladding was a potential fire hazard and would need to be replaced. The cost per flat could run into tens of thousands of pounds.
What were we going to be liable for? Was that now worthless as a property? Just all those emotions in one hit. It was quite frightening, actually.
Jo contacted the management company responsible for the upkeep of the flats. She asked them to forward a copy of any emails that had already been sent to other residents in the block.
And they very quickly emailed it over. Certainly within a couple of working days, we had all of the emails that had been sent. And it was at that point that we realised that some of these emails had been sent to the residents prior to the date we exchanged on.
In other words, the cladding and the potential fire risk had been common knowledge before the sale had gone through.
That was when we realised that actually we should have been told that this was a problem.
The emails suggested Haslams had known about the cladding, but had failed to pass that information on.
We felt just so disappointed.
There are lots of rules that somebody doing estate agency work must follow. They've got to tell you all the really important information about the property, whether it's a leasehold or a freehold, and what it's built out of, and whether there's any rights of way across it. Anything important, how many bedrooms are, the size of the bedrooms. So there's a number of things that they've got to disclose at the earliest opportunity, and it's breaking the law if they don't do it.
In desperation, Jo and Fraser contacted Reading Borough Council. Ian Saville is a senior trading standards officer. Ian is our defender.
We couldn't believe the situation on the face of it, actually. In terms of the timing, it was a kick in the teeth for the consumers. They should have been excited about getting a new flat, but instead they were really thinking about how much is it going to cost us to get this resolved.
Ian's job was to establish whether Haslams estate agents had known about the cladding. If they had, they should have, by law, notified Jo and Fraser Sparks.
We had to look at it very objectively, so we started investigating it.
An email had been sent round notifying everyone about the cladding. The date on that email was November the 3rd, 2 weeks before the Sparks completion date.
We contacted the property management agents, and they were able to provide us with the email and everyone who received the email.
That list of names proved crucial.
We were able to see several names on there belong to the Haslams estate agency.
It was damning evidence. Haslams knew about the cladding, but didn't tell Jo and Fraser Sparks.
There was a 2-week window that Haslams had the information for, and they had that opportunity to pass it on to the consumer. But the fact that the agent saved it until half an hour after they had the keys was just about the worst timing I think you could imagine.
Haslam's lettings team had known about the cladding, but hadn't told the sales team. It was a breakdown in communications.
I mean, it was a big open plan office with about 80 members of staff. So you imagine people would pass it one another, you know, at the coffee station or whatever. But evidently this information was just sat on, and there weren't communication channels between the teams. The information just got stuck in the business and didn't get shared.
The sales team did eventually find out about the cladding, but not until just before completion.
They knew at that point they'd made a horrendous mistake.
Ian and his team decided to take Haslams to court.
Effectively, they were negligent in their duty of care to the consumers. Really, notwithstanding that it was effectively an isolated incident, it was of such gravity that prosecution was the only reasonable outcome in the circumstances.
Haslam's Estate Agents Limited pleaded guilty. It was fined £30,000 and ordered to pay costs.
Anybody involved in the buying and selling of properties has to be of the highest consumer protection standards.
Haslam's has pledged to improve communications between sales and lettings teams. Meanwhile, work has started on replacing the cladding at Hanover House.
We felt that trading standards had been amazing for us. They had taken the stress out of it for us, they had taken the strain for us, and ultimately they had managed to prosecute an estate agent, and that's really big. It was so nice to be validated by someone saying to us, yes, what happened to you wasn't right. That wasn't how business should be run. And that's actually why we have trading standards. They look after us, don't they? So.
Gemma Bragger is a busy mother of 3 and a foster carer.
We have got 3 biological children. We look after up to 2 children at a time as well. So there's 7 of us in the house, and the dog.
Gemma believes it's important for the whole family to sit down together at mealtimes.
As our kids were getting older and they were getting bigger and we needed a bigger table, we wanted something that we could all sit round.
Gemma started searching online for a table big enough for their growing family. She was about to stumble across this man, Ian Lewis McCormack, who conned hundreds of customers out of thousands of pounds.
He had no scruples whatsoever. I don't think he really knew what the difference between truth and lies was.
McCormack ran a cut-price furniture business on Facebook.
We found his Facebook page online and we were taken back. The furniture looked beautiful, very professional, very antique, looked exactly what we wanted.
And it was cheap too. Rather than just order online, Gemma wanted to see it for herself.
We were very cautious, being a little bit older. I suppose you think that anybody could set up a Facebook page with pictures, they could use different pictures. So we thought, no, we want to see it firsthand, thinking that we were doing the right thing and that he was a genuine joiner. We went and arranged a meeting with him.
Gemma and husband Paul made the hour-long journey from West Yorkshire to McCormack's workshop in Hull.
He was really, really friendly and pleasant and told us about how much effort he puts into his work and really sucked us in, to this beautiful new company that was emerging, and we thought we were getting a great deal.
The table would cost £500. He insisted on a £280 deposit to secure delivery in 6 to 8 weeks.
I remember saying to him, so we'll definitely get it before Christmas, so we'll get it September time. And he assured us, yeah, definitely, 100%.
McCormack contacted Gemma in September with a delivery date. The date arrived and Gemma waited in for the delivery. But he didn't turn up.
So you want to kind of give the people the benefit of the doubt, especially the first time. He gave us a different delivery date, so we thought, no, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, it'll just be next week.
But it happened again and again, and on each occasion he had a different excuse.
He'd been broken into, his tools were broken, his family were poorly, he was ill, he hadn't been able to get to work, and there were just all these excuses. 2 days before Christmas I'd messaged him, please can you just deliver the table? And my messages were just begging him, and he just wouldn't reply.
The table Gemma had ordered back in July was never going to arrive.
Christmas Day, that was when I knew it wasn't coming.
Gemma was determined to, at the very least, get her £280 deposit back.
I was fuming, and it really did take up a lot of my thinking time and a lot of my emotions, because I was so upset at how we were just being taken for a ride.
Ron Ruddock has worked in consumer protection enforcement for more than 20 years.
I think you have to be very suspicious of any company that you don't really know. So dealing with the high street companies online, you can feel fairly confident with. But if it's an obscure company, and quite often people trust them because they're online and they feel everything will be up and above board and, oh yeah, when you pay online there is some sort of protection, it is still very high risk.
Gemma wasn't alone. There were hundreds of families in a similar situation.
Yeah, the number of complaints, just flagged itself up straight away and the alarm bells went off.
Colin Briggs is the Trading Standards Manager at East Riding Council. Colin is our defender.
It was so serious we had to go and pay these people a visit as soon as we possibly could and speak to them in no uncertain terms that their method of business and the way they were carrying on was just not acceptable and was indeed illegal, and if they didn't change their ways they would end up in a lot of trouble.
Despite the warning, nothing seemed to change.
He carried on in exactly the same manner, and it didn't seem to matter what he was told, what he was advised, and basically nothing short of a full prosecution and probably imprisonment was going to stop him.
There were hundreds of complaints on file, but the real figure could be even higher.
Well, the investigation revealed somewhere in the region of £250,000. It was just a shocking fraud, really, the volume of which was staggering at times.
Throughout the investigation, McCormack carried on trading. Eventually, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of fraudulent trading and 2 counts of participating in a fraudulent business.
The defendant himself carried on right up to the court door, doing exactly the same thing.
McCormack was jailed for 30 months, given a 5-year criminal behaviour order, and banned from being a company director.
I just thought he was a thoroughly dishonest and nasty individual who would stop at nothing to get his hands on other people's money.
I think it's brilliant because I think for a long time he thought, because it was done over social media, he thought he was untouchable. He thought that he could just tell people no, and that was it for them. So I'm really glad that justice was done.
Across the UK, our defenders are out there, protecting us from those who abuse our trust.
When I see someone like this brought to justice, it makes my day. All the dark days are brightened by the fact that bringing that one person to justice not only impacts on the victims in that particular case, but will it have impact going forward? And so that's kind of what I live for.
Well, known as the Prince of Spiritualists, but nothing more than a con man. Listen to Fake Psychic, that's on the BBC Sounds app. And tonight, a builder who thinks he's come up with a game changer for the building trade. Dragons Downs at 8 here on BBC One. But next, a terrace that leaves Martin baffled on Homes Under the Hammer.